What is the key to healing is not adding more, but removing what interferes with the body's natural ability to repair itself. Many people today struggle with fatigue, inflammation, slow recovery, brain fog, and feeling like their bodies just isn't functioning the way it used to. But what if part of the problem is not just symptoms, but impaired communication between ourselves? And today we're talking about the internal environment, detoxification, and a fascinating area of science called redox, cell signaling, and why this may play an important role in how well our body heals and adapts. If you're interested in longevity, energy, resilience, and supporting your body at the root level, this conversation is for you. For those who are new here, I'm Dr. Evelyn Ellis, an integrative naturopathic doctor focusing on hormone health, longevity medicine, and root cause healing. I help women and men optimize hormones, gut health, metabolic health, and overall vitality using a combination of lifestyle medicine, functional lab testing, and evidence informed natural therapies. My goal is to bridge the gap between conventional medicine and proactive health optimization so people can not only feel better but perform better and live longer with quality of life. So today's guest, our honor, is Diane Rossow, health detox strategist and author of the book Let It, Your Body Can Heal Itself Given the Proper Environment. Diane is a passionate about helping people understand how environmental toxins, oxidative stress, and impaired cellular communication may impact the body's ability to heal. We'll this fact or like decompress those words in a few moments here. Her work focuses on supporting the internal terrain, meaning the environment in which our cells function, so the body can do what it was designed to do. Her journey began when she was seeking answers to help her daughter regain health, which led her to explore detoxification strategies and the role of redox signaling molecules in cellular health. Diane now educates individuals and practitioners on how reducing toxic burden and supporting cellular communication may help improve resilience, recovery, and vitality. Diane, welcome to the show. So let's
Thank
start with you. Yeah, who you are, what you do, and what are you most passionate about right now?
thank you, Dr. Evelyn. I'm just honored to be here and yes, very passionate about cellular health. And the truth is, 5 years ago, I wouldn't even have known what that meant. But I'll
Mm,
tell you what happened. My daughter at 42 years old contacted me finally after 3 weeks of not returning calls and said she was done. She didn't want to be on this earth anymore. And there were reasons for that: pain, inflammation in her joints, brain fog, inability to work for 6 years, and just the feeling of sluggish, boredom, worthless, all of those emotions that go with it. And Dr. Evelyn, this all stemmed from an original hip surgery that had gone bad, and 3 more major hip surgeries followed that one until they finally replaced the hip because restructuring wasn't working, correcting wasn't working. By the end of these 5 surgeries, she was an opioid addict,
mm,
and there was no relief from the medications.
yeah.
That was probably one of the worst days of my life, and I knew it was coming. I dropped to my knees, asked for some help from our Heavenly Father, and that afternoon I got a call about cellular health, a non toxic product that would create more cell signaling in the body because the body would know exactly what to do with it. Why? Because it was bioidentical to the cell signaling in the body. Okay, so it sounded pretty impressive, could fix a lot of things. and I decided I needed to try it. So I didn't understand what it was doing at the time because I didn't have time to really understand. I needed to help my daughter, and anyone that would give me a string of hope, I was willing to try that. So within a few days of using the product, my little fingers started working better. I could open up a bottle of water again like I used to. Within about 30 days, I could walk on my own fake hips without pain. And then I started scratching my head. By now, my daughter was engaged with me using the product as well. And so we were fascinated by some of the things that were happening for her as well. She was moving a little more freely. She wasn't hurting so badly. And then I started learning about things called oxidative stress, you know, inflammation at the cellular level. And I started understanding that every system, every organ in the body has an underlying foundation of cells. Well, cells are communicating with each other constantly all day. And there's only about 60 or 75 trillion of them. And when they're talking all day long to each other, if there's interruptions to that, too many interruptions, then things start going wrong. As we were both getting better together, and I was feeling less pressure about whether she was going to stay with me or not, I had more time now to study and to understand how the body actually operates and what is it that causes this, quote, cellular interruption. Well, there are several things. There are actually three major categories that make us sick because the cells get sick. So when the cells get sick, they don't communicate. Okay, number one is non-living pathogens, heavy metals, chemicals, even noxious fumes. If you drive a gas tank truck, for example, that's your living, that's a problem. If you are have a business for poisonous spraying weeds with poison chemicals, that's a problem. You absorb all that through your skin. So non-living pathogens. Living pathogens, those are things like your fungus, mold, parasites, and they come in forms of like people are familiar with tick bites that can make them very sick and give them Lyme disease. But there's lots of worms in the food we eat, whether it's a vegetable or a undercooked meat, fish. I loved sushi for so many years. I loved sushi. Oh, no more. No more. I won't eat raw fish anymore now that I know what I know. The third category, Dr. Evelyn, is EMF. The signals that we receive from our computers, our cell phones, our TVs, our Wi-Fi, all of that causes an interrupt. So with living, non-living pathogens and EMF, those are the three major ways that our cells get interrupted, damaged, and very, very sick.
Yeah. Thank you so much for explaining the detail of those. And I do, in my practice, do like toxic burden testing. And usually they have different company to do through. And then in glyphosate, you can really measure them on urine, even pesticide from vegetable or from fruit that we eat. And we have no idea how much we have stored in our body. And fuel, industrial toxins out there, mold, or lime, or even heavy metal. You can really do all of those in a one testing, and which is a very extensive. The hard thing, I have one case is one gentleman. I come up with all the chronic illnesses causes, and we tried detox with glutathione, the path phase 1, 2, and 3 with him for the gut health and hormone support and the brain health support. And toward the end, I took on a test for that test, and it come a lot of things are high. However, in his past history was he used to live in Alabama, work in tech, doesn't have a lot of exposure to some of those like heavy metal or even a mold or even the fuel, that exhaustion that we smell if a person can live in the oil or worked in an oil field before. And he was surprised. He was like in denial. And that the wake-up call for me that a lot of time we grew up, we can also store some of those toxic burden in our body that we don't know exist until we accumulate them over time. And if we don't detox them, we don't have a way to move or mobilize them out of the body, it will stay there and it will inhibit a lot of receptor. And I appreciate when you talk about the cell signaling, the cell communication. And for those the audience who learn about biochemistry or biology, cell to cell are very small, and each cell they have the different mitochondria inside. They have powerhouse inside. They have a little circle to really excrete of those toxin outside. And little cell is multiplied by many, but they will communicate through enzyme, which protein we talk about, electrolytes like those nutrients, magnesium, B12, B complex, CoQ10, vitamin D, etc., vitamin C, and also receptor for those hormones to receive them in the organ. So from the cell to organ and to bigger, different part of our body, it coming from that cellular. And these are deep science. Yeah, yeah. So I appreciate you explaining all of these for us. Um, for the audience who like fish, I
Yes.
used to listen to the podcast with the owner of Roger Hood Detox, and they have the purified products that they also do about detoxing, parasite cleansing. And she also mentioned about like one she know about the raw fish, and they talked about sushi, and potentially that was a none for life. Is a hard wake-up call to even know. How did you come to the point of your lifestyle in the past was changing, can be dramatic, can be fast. One should know the truth about a science. Because a lot of us, we rather just live a life happy, eat what we used to eat, and go happy with our day. And in order to change from the past to the future, and now is the most important change, how do you do that? How do you accept it? How do you
Well,
live with your people and have people understand why you do what you do?
well, that's a very powerful question, and it's a hard one for people to get their head around. But let's go back to my daughter. 60% of a disease is manifested before symptoms often arise. So you can be going along your merry way, eating what you want to eat, drinking what you want to drink, thinking you're just perfectly fine until that one day you're not.
Yeah.
And what happens is there's a toxic load that gets in our system that you know how to test for. They call it an allostatic load. And when you test for that and understand that the teacup is way over full with sugar, not anything that's good for you, say for just a visual, right? It's got way too much sugar in it. Then your body is so out of whack that now all these symptoms are showing up. What started the process of changing the lifestyle was bringing down the inflammation, the pain, so that she could step into and go forward with a different lifestyle that wasn't so uncomfortable. In the 5 years I've been doing this, Dr. Evelyn, only 2 people have come to me that were interested in preserving their health that they had today instead of waiting to come to me when they were so out of whack and had no hope through the medical system. And that's not what we want. We don't want you to wait for change and wait for that kind of thing, those horrible things to happen before you start making the changes. So when you start making little changes at a time, and I talk about this in the book called Let It, the little changes include, I'll back up for just a minute and say the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat are things that sometimes we just simply can't control everything that's going into our system. But when we make food choices, we really, all of us know that sugar's not good for us, but we don't know exactly where sugar really permeates everything. I mean, bread and condiments and even pickles, right? So we have to start making small decisions to say, well, if I'm going to keep doing this, can I at least make a change over here? And that might be one less beer a day. It might, for starters, it might be no donuts this week. When we talk about, what can we do that's reasonable to eliminate some sugar in the food? And what can we do in the hydration category that can put more good in? Because that's the idea, is if we're suspecting through symptoms that we might be headed for a crisis, then we start looking at things that we're doing externally, putting them into our body, because that's how the cells get out of balance, is putting toxic into the body. So you may not be able to change the air that you breathe, but we can all control what's in our mug. What are we drinking? We can control how many cups of coffee we drink. We can control, the choices. If we're going to eat raw fish, okay, well, let's make sure we are on a protocol that every bite of raw fish, we eat some wasabi with it, we eat some ginger with it, and we do a parasite cleanse at least once every third month, those kinds of things. So we have to start making small choices, not to say, I don't like the word diets, because it just, that's good. Diet and failure, boom, stamped all over. No,
buzzwords.
Right? It's small choices that we make every day. When Brandy started making those small choices to change what she put in her mouth, because when she was that depressed and on that many medications, then it didn't seem to matter. It's like, who cares? I don't want to be here anyway, so I'll eat this, this horrible preserved food because I don't have the energy to make a decent meal. And that's the danger of when we get, that sick. But anything that's preserved, packaged, additives in boxes, this is why we try to, I know it sounds silly and it sounds boring, but stay on the outside aisles of the grocery store. Go to the farmers markets, try to make conscious decisions every day. Slamming down a couple of 3 sodas a day is more toxic than you could ever imagine. Why do I know enough about toxicity? Because my daughter was on 26 medications a day, Dr. Evelyn. And we took every single medication, looked into the ingredients of each and every one of them, understood that the top 4 ingredients in every medication is oil-based, a white powder that's a paint thickener, a soap that makes it slide down your throat easier. I mean, toxic chemicals that you wouldn't give to your pets, let alone should you be putting in your mouth. Now, I am not an anti-medication, but at 26 meds a day, I had to say the toxicity is coming from what they think is helping her, and it's not helping her. So as we were able to unravel the poison that was going in, stop the poison going in, and I don't recommend this without being under a doctor's care, but when you start learning from the doctor, what can I do that would help me reduce this medication or that medication? And we ended up getting her down with those small little choices every day. Once we went on a detox, in addition to a cell signaling product that increased cell signaling, and then we found non-toxic, non-harmful ways to decrease the heavy metals and chemicals. And heavy metals comes from having fillings put in your teeth and having, shots, flu shots, and all kinds of shots put in your arm, mercury from fish. Those heavy metals build up in your body. We went on heavy metal cleanses and we went on parasitical cleanses. And over a 3-year period of time, she was completely med-free, gainfully employed, had her brain back, and was living life again. So a diagnosis is not fatal. A diagnosis is just a wrapping, if you will, a label of symptoms that are telling you a different way to say your cells aren't signaling, boop, 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 toxic overload, boop, boop, boop. And that's what we need to do, is help escalate the detoxing process. Once you start feeling that progress, then it's much easier to continue. Because I don't believe that everybody wakes up in the morning and says, boy, I really want to feel bad today. I don't believe that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We can hear your passion. We can hear your advocacy, and you really stand up for your family. And I know that I have clients, friends who went through depression on medication, took SSRIs, and difficulty with family where they don't get support. It's really tough to go through. And how to get out of the other side where they could feel that system of like keep being rotating in turnover with using the medication, because that's all they know. To have the capacity to think of the other side, you need some agent, some supporter, someone who stand behind your back to support. So thank you for being a strong person behind your daughter. And it is an encouragement for anyone who listen to this podcast to know that there's support out there. And either it coming from family, coming from provider, but there are ways to help. And I know reducing medication is very difficult. My husband I met him at the water fasting retreat in Santa Rosa. And it's the first time I saw that people actually get off difficult medication like diabetes medication, hypertension medication, a lot of heart drugs for their heart, their kidney, and their sugar level. And they use a treatment method where it's diligent, it's patience. Paid clients stay there for long term, 1 or 2 months, not just like a quick fix at all. And as we hear your story, your daughter took 3 years. And for the audience to hear, it does take time to heal the body. And sometimes we go through healing crisis at the hard time in the beginning of any detox. Is hard at first, emotionally, physically, and mentally, in order to see the other side or the light in the end of the tunnel. Yeah, so appreciate that.
And when
Yeah.
you get to
And
the other side, when you actually get to the other side, and you will, then when you go to put something in your mouth that is toxic, it's mind blowing. I'm not even tempted by a donut. The thought just makes my stomach turn. So you will get there.
Yeah, and some people may wonder, how do you do that? The taste buds does change.
Yes.
And bitters, any type of detox that we've been changing our conditioning that we do over time, it will make us not craving for a certain thing in the past anymore. And sometimes you do until you really satisfy yourself, you will realize it's not worth it. Our body will tell us for
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
Yes.
And this conversation is not to shame anybody about not living the way that we think is best. And I think it's just showing another example that there's a possibility for different difficulties of health to get to the other side. Um, I want to delve deeper into cell signaling, oxidative stress. Oxidative stress, I know we can measure through blood work or urine or organic acid testing. Cell signaling is a harder way to measure. And when we use the word redox with cell signaling, what does that really mean?
Yes.
And why do
Thank you.
people need to know about these products, for example, that you mentioned?
Mm-hmm. Um, First of all, I think if we think about a cell phone that only has one bar on it is probably not going to give you a very good signal. And if you have four bars, then you're going to have just a very fine signal. It's going to work just fine. The cells, you talked earlier about the mitochondria in every cell. Those mitochondria, and in the brain cells, there's multiple mitochondria in each cell. Those are power plants that generate energy, little fleeting bits of energy that are called molecules. Redox is a truncated word that stands for reductants and oxidants. And, we're such a society that's really familiar with antioxidants and how we need those, but we don't think of the reverse of the antioxidant as being important. And they're both important because what's important is the balance between the reductants and the oxidants. So if you say, well, I have to take an antioxidant, well, maybe you need an oxidant, right? So you need the balance. And that's, I think, what people miss the most is the balance. How do we know when we're out of balance? We don't think of it. I never thought of my body as being out of balance at the cell level. I thought of my hips not working correctly, or my gut not being comfortable. It was swollen, etc. Everything that we experience, a sty on the eye, a bump on the arm. I mean, those are cells that are behaving or misbehaving. There's only two ways they can go. If they're misbehaving, it's because something is poking at the cell, covering the cell, has penetrated the cell, and has done it not just in one, but in many, many, many. Like we said, if there's a lot of discussion about whether it's 60 or 75 trillion, whatever the number is, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So when we talk about rogue cells, rogue cells love to make more rogue cells. They love to, duplicate themselves. Well, that's all levels of toxicity that we need to get out so that they can do what they're supposed to do, which is heal themselves. That's what we were designed to do. I think a fish tank, if you think of a fish tank and you have a goldfish in there and you have filthy, dirty water that hasn't been changed for over a month, this is what I'm talking about is, do we just naturally vaccinate the fish and try to make it healthier because it's sick? Or do we clean the water, clean the tank? And that's what I'm so passionate about, Dr. Evelyn, is that so many things can, not easily, but with concentration, dedication, persistence, we can clean the tank and clear up
Yeah.
so many symptoms. But we need help oftentimes with even things that we're putting in, like I drink a lot of water. Okay, put lemon in it, put orange in it, put cucumber in it, because now the body will see that as a food source, and it will take it more
Mm.
deeply into the cell, and it will help flush out some of that horrible stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so what about how do I start cutting out sugar? How about we start with sourdough bread? Instead of saying cut out everything white, that's a big one, right? Well, let's just cut out sugar as much as we possibly can and keep our carbohydrates for a while, but let's switch
Yeah.
to sourdough. And sourdough is the least amount of sugar in that kind
Mhm.
of bread until we can get our head around going, maybe even I don't need carbohydrates right now anymore at all. Until we can
Yeah.
get more toxicity pushed out of us. Oxidative stress is simply inflammation at the
Mhm.
cellular level. And if you think of that many, I don't know how to imagine 75 trillion cells. I don't know how to
It's a
imagine that.
lot.
But if you think of even just 30% of those being inflamed and
Mhm.
hurting and covered with toxic poisons, then things are not going to go well. And you're not going
Mhm.
to move freely. Things are going to keep you depressed, brain
Yeah.
fog, out of sync. And I don't believe, based on my experience, I don't believe that medication is always the answer. Because
Yeah.
oftentimes what's in us already is what's causing the problem versus adding something that's also toxic to address
Yeah.
a symptom. So I really sit down with my people, and I'm not a doctor, Dr. Evelyn, you know that. Um, but so I call them my people. I sit down with my people and really understand the lifestyle. Where are they working? Where have they been working? What,
Mhm.
how long have these symptoms been going on? What kinds of um, treatments have they tried? When you think about something as radical as chemotherapy, can we go there for a minute?
Yeah.
When we go into chemotherapy, if you looked at the ingredients and what's in that drug, you are just flooding your body with poison. So that's you're already toxic. You're already toxic. So we have to really pull these things apart, take a hiatus from putting more poison in, and let's just look at it. Let's just look at it and see how much poison can we pull out first and
Mhm.
fast without
Yeah.
hurting you, without harming you at all, before we start adding something in that's not pure and healthy,
Yeah.
designed for the body.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining all the concept and go to the very hard issue. And recently I have more clients who do going through cancer. In previous practice, I work with clients who do have cancer at the moment, and we do a lot of high dose vitamin C way to really help assisting while they're still going through the chemo radiation therapy. It's a very controversial topic of which way is the right way to do. Some people say low carb, metabolic is a reason for cancer to grow. Environmental toxin is a way for it to triggers, and it's a lot of research are going on for the background to really get dissecting them. And And I think that in the system, we have different segment of silos, which now is better. People become more integrative and willing to listen to each other, doing podcasts to really
Yes.
learn from each other, which is a great thing. And I do encourage for clients to search out an advocate for yourself, if you will, and for your family member too. And I love it whenever clients just giving to me like a long email. Hey, Dr. Evelyn, I found this treatment. Hey, Dr. Evelyn, what do we do about herbal versus medication? So my job is to research and tease it out to make sure people have a peace of mind. Because one of the downsides for social media or internet is we got overwhelmed with information as well. And at the same time, we have a sound mind to distill them. So it need a lot of help
That's right.
around with our body. Yeah.
Yes.
The concept you talk about oxidative stress is inflammation. And often people will think about inflamed, meaning sometimes people feel swelling in their joint, sometimes the swelling in their face, and sometimes a cut will leading to the inflammation of cascade of different white blood cells or macrophage to protect you because of immune function. They all connect together from immune, from inflame to make sure they can recover and healing faster. Um, and it coming from that small micro, like a microscope, under microscope, a cell under microscope. And in biology, if the audience can remember back in your maybe middle school to have those activity in science to look at the cell and you see the different cell and that only represent one cell among many trillion that you talk about. And when we manifest into eating food like glucose or any type of oil or any type of inflammatory food that we think about, then it will become a bigger molecule that attack or binding into those receptor or those enzyme and those active hormone, active nutrient just doesn't know where to go in the right direction anymore. And that's the reason why the signaling become disrupted, as you talk about, from food that non-living or pathogen, even veggies from the pesticide. Recently, my husband kept telling me the organic, and I'm like, oh gosh, there's a lot of choices to make for the new family. But one step at a time. And as we figure out what is the right thing for each of us that we're willing to do, we're willing to incorporate and have that piece that you all do the thing you need to do at the moment instead of gearing toward feeling anxious and looking at these people say this, I should do this, but I haven't done that, therefore I feel shame or guilty. And that's a part where we don't encourage that momentum, but the other side is what we can incorporate, what we can do is the best we can. Yeah. Thank you. Any last thought that you would like to bring to the audience where it can really enlighten them? Is a breaking point in your life where you know if we have done this, we have known this, it will help a lot of the audience for their health and their well-being.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Evelyn. I think the most important thing to remember is that we spend our life understanding that we're unique, that we are specially made, that we are different from each other. And that's all true. And that's what makes the world such a fascinating place. But here's one thing that we're not different. We're not different in the original creation of design. The cells operate the same in you as they do in me. The systems, the organs, they're the same in you as they are in me. My weak spots might be different than your weak spots, but the system operates the same. So when we get toxins out in a safe manner and we replace the toxic going in with good stuff going in. And in the meantime, we add bioidentical cell signaling molecules to help the body do what it already knows how to do, then we do not have to be doomed to a life of, well, I'm over 60. That comes with being over 60. No, you're just short on cell signaling. If you have a young child that's not operating at optimal level for an 8-year-old, they're probably just short on cell signaling for one reason or the other. So cell signaling is the essence of life. And you can go 30 days without food, about 3 without water, about 3 minutes without air. But Dr. Evelyn, you can't go 3 seconds without cell signaling molecules.
Yeah. Thank you so much for telling that to the audience, and we truly appreciate it. Well, last question. How can people find you? Would offer what resources that you would love the audience to know from your services?
Thank you so much. I'd love to visit with any of your audience. My book can be found on Amazon. Let It. I co-authored the book with Priscilla Ledbetter. So Let It, the body can heal itself given the proper environment. You can email me at Diane Rossow. Diane has one N, Rossow, Rossow, has 2 S's, at protonmail.com. Or you can find out even more detail about the non-toxic products I use, and a lot more science information, as well as fill out a form to be in contact with me for an overview of toxicity at dianerosso.me. That's dianerosso.me.
Thank you so much for those resources, and I will put them in the description for the audience to know. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
today we explored how creating the right environment for support may support the body's natural ability to heal. We discussed detoxification, oxidative stress, and the role of cellular communication in resilience and longevity. Diane reminds us that health is not just about treating symptoms, it is about supporting the terrain in which our cells function. And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to the channel, share with other people so you don't miss future conversations on hormone health, longevity medicine, and integrative strategies. And this podcast is for educational purposes only and not medical advice. So thank you for joining us today, and we will see you in the next episode. I